Queensland, exotic and wild, rich and lush. Welcome to the jewel in Australia's wildlife crown. From relaxation or adrenaline, from thick rainforests to the parched outback, it's an action-packed trip of a lifetime. Fall in love with the Great Barrier Reef, whether from the air or below the crystal clear surface, diving among the coral for close-up encounters with marine wildlife. Its glittering waters offer every kind of fun. See its wild side, or Paradise Beaches, the ultimate place for an ultimate journey. The Undersea Explorer charges full steam ahead towards uncharted waters. Skipper Ross navigates to places regular dive boats can't get to. Also on board is marine biologist Carl, who has one goal: to help save the Great Barrier Reef and its wildlife from further ravages caused by global warming and pollution.
The Great Barrier Reef's huge. It's the largest reef system in the world. And in fact, up until recently, no Europeans have lived here and very little research has been done. We've been coming out here for about 20 years, a number of biologists in this area, and we realized that a lot of scientific research that could be done wasn't being done by government organizations. So what we tried to do is come up with a way in which we could use tourism as a driving force to drive research on the Great Barrier Reef.
This fieldwork is expensive, but these scientists have come up with a great way to fund their research. Guests pay to live on board the Undersea Explorer for a week at a time. In return, they get a thrilling adventure and take part in authentic marine research at the same time. Marine biologist Monique Matthews briefs this week's guests about diving procedures and updates them on the research they'll be helping with. And with all the admin out of the way, it's time for the first dive. Because they're so far out at sea, they get a feel for the true size and magnitude of the reef. There are no other dive crews around, and because they're in deeper water, the reef is largely unaffected by pollution. From just below the surface to much deeper down, it shimmers with color and life. The reef supports a huge diversity of fish, birds, and marine mammals, some of which are endangered. The divers bump into one of the locals, a gentle giant called a potato bass, named after the potato-shaped splodges on its skin. Potato bass have an extraordinary sex life. They start life as a female and then switch sex to become male. Scientists are still trying to understand more about this phenomenon. These guys can grow quite big, some more than 2 meters long, making them one of the biggest reef dwellers. This inquisitive fish has a reputation for being friendly, but as this diver discovers, it could inflict serious injury. This one, suspecting food, darts in for a bite. No harm done, this time. The very reason why the scientists don't feed the fish is that they want the creatures to behave as naturally as possible. Another way, they help keep Osprey Reef pristine. Back on the mainland, Sebastian and Katina have decided to explore the tropical north to check out Queensland's unique wildlife. To do this, they've decided to hire a mobile home.
This is your four-wheel drive camper van. Come and have a look. Outdoor cooker. In here, you'll find your...
This fully functional home on wheels has everything they will need, from a stove to a fridge. Even the sleeping quarters look comfortable, and cooking shouldn't be a problem either.
And it'll keep everything nice and frozen and cold for you.
I think that Sebastian will really like the kitchen and cooking for me. Yeah.
Katina and Sebastian first head north towards one of Queensland's major attractions. Just over 100 kilometres from Cairns is the largest area of tropical rainforest in the whole of Australia. Daintree Rainforest stretches over a massive 1,200 square kilometres. It has two claims to fame. First, it is the oldest rainforest in the world. Second, it shelters the Earth's greatest concentration of rare, threatened, and nearly extinct plants and animals. Of the 430 or so species of bird that live in these trees, 13 don't exist anywhere else. It's fitting then that this unique rainforest was declared a World Heritage Site in 1988. A natural monument well worth exploring. For them, that begins with a walk through the treetops. From 20 meters above the ground, they soon spot their first wildlife treat. A rare cassowary. Although it can't fly, its numbers have soared from 54 to 500 thanks to conservation efforts. For their next animal encounter, Katina and Sebastian take a boat trip on Cooper Creek. They scan the surface of the water and the edges of the mangrove swamps for signs of the creek's biggest inhabitant. Before long, they spot one. A saltwater crocodile. This deadly reptile can swim underwater at up to 20 kilometers an hour without causing so much as a ripple, bursting out with enough power to drag a horse to its death.
It's a small area of Australia with a very high rainfall, and it's pretty well no other place in Australia has got such a diverse rainforest. Yeah? Most of Australia is very arid, yeah? So it's a good place to see.
Even when you can't see them, somehow you know the crocs are there.
It's a little bit eerie in here. It's the mangroves and the trees and the water. You can't see underneath it. And all of a sudden, a crocodile will just pop up. And, yeah, it's scary. Historic creatures.
Want to swim here?
No, I don't think so.
Once, their numbers were decimated by hunting, but since becoming a protected species in 1970, crocodile numbers have increased. The boat drops them off deep in the heart of the rainforest. There's no easy aerial walkways here. Katina and Sebastian trudge through a thick layer of mud. Torrential rains drench the forest for 120 days every year.
Wow, now we're out in the rainforest off the beaten track. It's amazing.
They walk slowly, scanning all around for wildlife. This tactic soon pays off, and they spot a Boyd's forest dragon, doing what it does best, pretending to be a tree. This rare lizard is found only in the remaining patches of Queensland's rainforests. Time for a foot spa. With temperatures of around 25 degrees and humidity levels of 100%, the cool water offers a chance to relax and unwind, though things seem to get a bit out of hand. But will they be able to stay so cool when they see what's next on the agenda? In Queensland, many people live in isolated areas of the outback, miles from towns or villages. The only way to reach them is either driving for days on dusty roads or by plane. If Sebastian and Katina want to go there, they need to take a deep breath and climb on board a small mail plane. Luckily for them, the postman is also a pilot.
Oh, it's a great way to see outback Australia, see how the station people live. You get a bit of their lifestyle, experience the day out in the bush. You land on dirt airstrips, which is quite an experience.
Peter can cover up to 1,000 kilometres a day, which really isn't that much when you consider a few of the cattle stations are bigger than some European countries. From up here, they can truly appreciate the vastness and density of the rainforest. Unfortunately, the runways are mostly gravel and touchdown can be a bit bumpy.
Great, very smooth landing. It's amazing there's nothing out here.
What a way to get your post. But the mail plane's weekly delivery is also a welcome distraction for a quick catch-up in what can sometimes be a lonely outback life. Unfortunately, there's little time to chat. The neighbours are waiting for their mail, and they live a few hundred kilometres away. It's a long trip, so Katina has bought her own onboard entertainment. Peter flies up to 5 different outback routes a week, often accompanied by guests who want to see what station living is all about.
They're very good customers, yeah. I can't complain. They just, looks like they're having a good time, so I'm happy if they're happy.
The next stop is Abingdon Downs Station. Usually Peter gets a warm welcome when he lands, but the first inhabitant they meet seems a little shy. Skippy keeps his distance from the strangers.
Here's your mail this week, mate.
And Peter's delivery today includes unwelcome post, just like everywhere else in the world.
I get all the bills.
This time, they managed to squeeze in a quick tour.
He likes me more. It's very peaceful, and I like animals. So I like horses and cattle. I could do it for a while, yeah. But I think it would be nice to just to visit the city every now and then, have a break. Yeah, but it's beautiful out here. Yeah. Have one of these for myself. All right.
When Katina produces a feeding bottle, Skippy's shyness evaporates.
Yeah, they're cute, aren't they, little skippies? They're it's amazing to see one like this, because usually you see them just in the distance. To see one up close, they're so cute.
But Peter, the flying postman, must press on. He still has several more drop-offs to make today. Exploring the vast outback by mail plane offers a great way to cover the huge expanse in a short amount of time and get a taste of some of Queensland's varied geography. After spending so much of the day in the air, Katina and Sebastian seem to get a taste for the high life, and they head for a different kind of flying, or rather falling. Sebastian wants to try bungee jumping.
Hey Sebastian, here's your boarding ticket.
My ticket not on? There you go, I'll get your ticket.
This jump on the outskirts of Cairns involves a drop of 50 metres, and they have 15 kinds of jumps, from full-on to the clinically insane. Guess which one he tried?
I was supposed to run straight down the ramp in the middle, but I ran from left to right, and I kept going. Left to right. And plowed through the trees. Broke branches off about yay fat.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Didn't jump for about 6 months after that.
I wanted to go in and try and push him, but they wouldn't let me in the cage, so I have to watch.
For those new to the sport, a dunking in the river provides a baptism into the thrilling world of bungee jumping. Sebastian takes to it like a pro and doesn't even seem slightly flustered by the 50-metre plunge. After the adrenaline-charged day, the couple head back to their campsite in the rainforest. Sebastian has promised to cook a gourmet meal in their outdoor kitchen.
Wow, what a nice rainforest camp place. Nice and easy, that's my bed for tonight.
And Katina is happy to leave the cooking to Sebastian.
Yeah, I'm happy just watching the dinner cooking and relaxing. Maybe I'll go get a beer.
Finally, the chef serves his concoction with a flourish. In cooking, presentation is everything.
This is my last chance.
Bon appetit.
Katina can feast her eyes on the view, but her stomach won't be getting much of a treat.
Tomorrow night, the restaurant again, please.
Why? It's gourmet.
No, you have mine.
The venue, though, couldn't be better.
And at the end of a long day in the fresh air exploring the rainforest, this is the best place to be.
The next morning, they head for the coastal town of Port Douglas. It boasts a fantastic setting between two World Heritage Sites, the Daintree Rainforest and the Great Barrier Reef. No wonder then that this town's population can increase fourfold at the height of the tourist season. A perfect spot for a picnic, and Sebastian's in charge of food again.
Surprise, surprise.
Sebastian redeems himself with this platter of fresh fruit, and yesterday's cooking disaster is forgotten. Revived, they head for Cairns Tropical Zoo, which, unlike other zoos, offers a wildlife experience that's up close and personal. You can feed, cuddle and stroke many of the animals. The zoo's philosophy is that personal interaction with the animals encourages a greater understanding of native wildlife. Many of the animals here are endemic to Australia, including one of the most popular, the koala.
So cute, just like a cuddly little bear. Beautiful.
Visitors learn about the wildlife by getting really close.
It actually feels really nice and smooth and beautiful. It's amazing. I'm just watching where the head is.
The boa constrictor can grow up to 4 meters long and weigh up to 30 kilos. In the wild, its patchwork coloring helps it disappear among the dappled light of the rainforest. Katina and Sebastian are ready to take a break from their adrenaline-packed holiday and head for one of Queensland's many idyllic beaches to fit in some proper relaxation. Many kilometers offshore, the undersea explorer has reached an isolated oceanic reef called Osprey. Carl, Monique and Ross hold a meeting.
Section, gubbins.
Okay, so we'll be doing that on our way back, won't we? So we'll be covering that on our way back?
Yep, no current, it'll be easy for the...
They've travelled 330 kilometres from Cairns, far from all other boats and dive crews.
Change course, nor did he want to talk to me about it.
Osprey Reef rises from a volcanic seamount, creating dramatic underwater scenery with walls that drop away up to 1,000 meters. It's time to run a few experiments. Carl baits a homemade wire trap with chunks of raw chicken. He has to secure it properly so that it doesn't get snatched off by scavengers or lost in the flow. Finally, he throws an empty nautilus shell into the basket, hoping that this will attract a few live ones.
What we're going to do now is we're going to set a trap to try to capture some nautilus. Here's one of the nautilus we've caught in the past, and you can get the idea of the size. The fact is that these nautilus live down about 300 to 500 meters deep. So how do you catch a nautilus? What we've done is we've created a trap. We've built a number of traps, and this is the one I have right here. And you can see I've loaded it with free-range chickens. We found chickens are one of the best things, and only free-range ones because they're only the ones found at that depth.
The tourists on board get involved in almost every aspect of research. They thoroughly enjoy taking part in authentic fieldwork, knowing that they're helping to protect the reef.
It's incredible to be on a boat where basically where they let you be involved, and I guess that's the whole reason that I chose this boat, because it's a lot more hands-on than a normal dive boat. I mean, you're not just diving, you get to really be hands-on and be a part of it.
Once the Nautilus trap is baited and ready, the crew lower it down into the deeper waters, some 300 meters below. They will leave it there until morning, since Nautilus are nocturnal hunters. Then, Monique briefs the crew about the next event.
The idea of the shark attract dive is, instead of a feed, is to bring the sharks in on a slightly mellower way, okay? When it's feed, it's very frenzied, it's very quick and it's over. Whereas with a shark attract, they can smell the food and they can sort of see it, they come up, they nuzzle it, they're trying to get at it, but it's not frenzied, okay?
Dress code may be relaxed, but the rules are strict. You don't mess with sharks.
We've caught one or maybe two sharks. We'll give you the signal, this, dive's over, time to come up. You can tell it from a little bit of distance. You're going to touch the shark at the other end.
While Monique finishes her briefing, white-tip reef sharks begin to gather round the boat. As long as no one provokes them, they won't be aggressive. The divers behave impeccably. Monique's chat seems to have done the trick. No one moves a muscle. Carl entices the sharks ever closer, pulling a basket with tightly wrapped pieces of bait fish towards the motionless divers. Sharks go into a feeding frenzy when fighting over large prey. But here, because they can snatch only small pieces at a time from the basket, they don't need to compete. The feeding session is calmer and lasts longer. Everyone gets a good look at the sharks and other diners, such as the moray eel. It's also a lot safer. It's a fantastic show with some unexpected entertainment too. The divers watch as Carl tries to lasso one of the sharks so that they can take it up to the surface for a few measurements. Carl has done this hundreds of times before, but today, to the huge amusement of his audience, things don't go to plan.
Oh, it was really frustrating, actually. There I was down there, the bait box was there, the sharks were coming in. I just couldn't seem to get a tail rope on it. I got a few grabs on, but it kept getting away from me. And finally, I got one that actually got on the tail, and it slipped off the noose.
After watching Carl struggle for some time, Monique steps in to help.
Sat around waiting for Carl, waiting for Carl, waiting for Carl, getting very bored waiting for Carl. Carl didn't quite get it, so got in there and had to show him how to do it, so yeah.
Monique takes over and catches herself a shark on her first attempt. Easy. But there's no time to waste, as now she must quickly drag the shark up to the surface, all 170 kilos of it. More often than not, sharks slip free. This time she's in luck. Or was it that feminine touch?
Yeah, unlucky. Female power. It's really cool.
The shark becomes totally relaxed, and they manage to haul it aboard. Monique reads out the valuable data from the microchip under its skin.
4159012221A. 2.
As the scientists check the shark over, the tourists keep their distance. This is a job for those with experience. One last dental check, and they let the shark slither free, delighted that everything went well in the end. But there's also a drier way to have a hands-on animal experience in Queensland. Not wild, but domestic. For 1 week, you can live on a farm in the outback, learning to be a rancher. It's a tough life, with temperatures sometimes reaching 50 degrees Celsius. As a proper jack or jillaroo, as the Australians call their cowboys and cowgirls, you can learn all aspects of running a cattle station, including how to use heavy machinery. Trainer Matt gives this week's 4 international jackaroo students a crash course in using a chainsaw. He'll soon find out who's got what it takes to be a rancher. Under Matt's watchful eye, Stephanie from Germany has a go. She handles this first task well.
She held the right action there. She just didn't quite have the chainsaw up onto the log enough there, but she seemed confident enough, and I'm fairly happy with the way she went.
Thank you.
But Stephanie will have to master many other skills if she's to qualify as a rookie rancher. During their week with Matt on Springbrook Farm, she and the other students must also be willing to do everything, including heavy labor. They will use this log to repair a fence later on.
3, and push.
But first, Stephanie and her peers must learn how to drive Matt's precious tractor.
Okay, everything at the front up, forks up in the air. Okay, crowding it in. If you push it to the right, we've got our foot accelerated.
This is serious business. Stephanie will use the tractor to do genuine farm work. She can't afford to mess up. Matt watches anxiously as Stephanie has a stab at lifting a straw bale. Stephanie has mastered a second important skill.
Okay, here's some.
But here's what lies at the heart of a cattle station: the cattle themselves. The farmhands ride horseback to round up several hundred heads of cattle, just as ranchers have done in the past. But modern forms of transport also have their place here. Stephanie hops off the tractor and onto a quad bike. She can't wait to use this skill out on the farm. After all that fun, it's time to get back to that crumbling fence.
So what we have here is an old strainer post and an old stay post. This post and strainer will all be about 80 to 90 years old. Replacing these and keeping our fences tight and in good condition is a very important part of working on a farm. Jackaroo and jillaroo work is not all about sort of mustering cattle and motorbikes and having fun. There's a lot of hard work involved in it as well.
Stephanie and the other students get to work. And no sooner has she learned to drive a tractor than 22-year-old Amy from England finds herself using it to drill holes.
I thought it would be a lot of outdoor physical work, but it's a lot more fun than I thought it would be as well. It's really good fun learning all the new skills and things, and the trainers make it easy for you. So yeah, it's good.
Matt treats everyone the same. He expects all the students to pull their weight, whatever their sex.
It is physical work, but I don't really believe in men's and women's work. I think everybody just needs to do a bit of everything. Obviously, I'm not as strong as a man, but I can still do things like the fencing. Obviously, you've just seen, so...
Because it's so deep, it's hard to actually...
Stephanie lands the toughest job, but it's worth the effort. After this week, their names will appear on a recruitment database, and other farmers will hire them when they can't fill positions locally.
Cool.
With all these new skills, Stephanie and her fellow students won't have any trouble finding work, as Matt explains.
A lot of the young people that grow up in the country, they tend to go to university in the city, and then they get jobs in the city and stay in the city. So there is a shortage of young people to work on farms in Australia. So that's why Visit Oz is such a success, is that people who are willing to work in the country, do a hard day's work for a fair day's pay. It is good fun for them. They learn a lot of new skills. They meet some very interesting people.
Matt's family plays host to the students, and Stephanie helps out there too.
Well, Matt tells me she's doing very well at the training, and she's a lovely girl. He's, yeah, always willing to help out, and she's been very good. I'm sure she'll be, her future employer is going to be very happy with her.
Finally, Matt puts the Jack and Jillaroos in the saddle to see how they cope on horseback. Amy is clearly already a competent rider. But Stephanie looks stiff and tense.
I'd like to work with horses, because that's what I do back where I live, but also because I've learnt all the new skills and things here, I'd like to try them out and possibly work on a station or something with cattle and just doing different things and living the real Aussie outback life.
Amy will be fine, but Matt calls Stephanie back.
This is a riding helmet. It's a bit of head protection for those who aren't so experienced at riding. Normally make the inexperienced rider wear these, just for a bit of safety, just in case there is an accident.
Stephanie feels more nervous than ever because Matt puts them to work straight away. There is no time for a warm-up. When a cow breaks free from the herd, Amy immediately joins Matt in rounding it up. Stephanie is left alone, not knowing what to do. In the ensuing confusion, Stephanie's horse bolts. She takes a bad tumble, and her horse heads for the hills. Matt quickly regains control of the situation, but the fall has left Stephanie battered and bruised. She's had an important lesson about how tough this life can be.
Basically, it's the old saying, if you fall off your horse, you've got to get back on and keep going.
But Stephanie's injuries mean that she misses out on the highlight of the week. The yearly muster. In some of the bigger farms, the cattle roam so far that the only way to round them up is by helicopter. It takes several days to round up thousands of young steers and to brand and neuter them. The students have got to learn how to do these unpleasant jobs too, if they're to get proper work on an outback ranch. But it's not for the faint-hearted.
It's a tough one. Put your left leg up if you want to kick. Okay?
It takes several pairs of hands to brand and castrate one calf. And the students have got to do more than just help hold the animal. They grit their teeth and do the nasty bit themselves. The lads have some sympathy for the calves, but Amy doesn't flinch.
It looks cruel, but it's not. It's just... And he looks fine, so a few minutes of pain and he'll forget it in a while.
Within the next few days, most of the team will move on, having qualified as jackaroos. But Stephanie will stay on for a bit to catch up on what she's missed.
We're really sorry that Stephanie's not here. It's such a shame that she fell off the horse because she missed all like the branding and everything. I'm sure she's here for long enough and she goes on to one of the stations or something, she'll see it.
An exciting year awaits these graduates. From rounding up cattle to delivering mail, helicopters are pressed into service in many ways in Queensland.
Yeah.
At the top end of luxury tourism, Anya prepares for a dawn flight with a private helicopter and her very own pilot. She'll need a life jacket because the helicopter will fly over water. Not just any old water, but Australia's most famous natural asset, the Great Barrier Reef. Only by helicopter can you get a true sense of the sheer size of this natural wonder. It goes on and on, one of the few natural wonders visible from space. The reef stretches nearly 2,300 kilometers along the northeast coast. Nearly 2 million tourists visit the reef each year, so a helicopter trip is a great way to get away from the main touristy areas. Anya soon falls in love with the Great Barrier Reef, and understandably so. Its beauty is nothing short of breathtaking, with island after island nestling in crystal clear waters. More important still is what can't be seen from up here, the rich marine wildlife living in these coral reefs, which is why it was declared a World Heritage Site in 1981. But no amount of beauty can prevent the hunger pangs from growing. It's time for some food. A sandbank, miles from anywhere, conveniently appears. A private flight, a handsome pilot, and her own sparkling treasure island. Anya needs just one more thing to complete this luxury trip. A champagne breakfast. What better setting for a brief lesson in marine biology?
There's about 10,000 on the reef, so we're very lucky. There's a lot of seagrass beds on the reef and snorkelling all around here. Some of the best
The pilot, who's also an experienced guide, must have one of the world's best jobs.
Today was flying out over the reef, and Anya's been such fantastic company. We're both very lucky to be out here and been able to fly down on an amazing isolated sand cave in the middle of the Great Barrier Reef in Australia.
All too soon, the desert island dream must end. Breakfast may be over, but the visual feast continues as the pilot flies Anya towards a different part of the Great Barrier Reef. And there's plenty to choose from. The reef covers an area of 350,000 square kilometers, from endless deserted beaches to jagged rocky outcrops and pristine blue lagoons. As well as the countless smaller marine animals, the reef also shelters more than 1,500 species of fish and 23 species of marine mammals, including the rare dugong. And of the 7 species of marine turtle in the world, 6 are found here. Anya keeps her eyes peeled as they head back to reality, but the dugongs don't show up. She's more likely to spot a boat. For the crew on the Undersea Explorer, surveying the reef proves to be hungry work.
Hello everybody, lunch is ready! Alright, that's fine. Good on you. Thank you. See ya!
Bye! Finally!
They still find time to play, though below the surface, the serious work continues. The scientists decide to hoist the Nautilus cage up. It looks as though the chicken bait worked. Quite a few Nautilus have swum in overnight. Carl gives an impromptu lecture about these secretive creatures.
And you'll see, they can stay up for a little while. Okay, there he is. Just get the water out of him. Okay, that's where its mouth is, so if it's going to bite me, that's where to go, to suck it in and bite me there. Once again, you can see the eye, and you can see the black bit on the eye. Right there.
Scientists know little about the mysterious Nautilus, an unusual shelled relative of the octopus that hasn't changed much in millions of years. The whole team now helps measure, weigh and label the specimens, work that will help build a clearer picture of the life of this elusive beauty. So far, the team has managed to tag almost 2,000 Nautilus, the most extensive Nautilus research in the world. Carl finds a playful way to keep the passengers interested.
You can see that we've numbered the Nautilus. The reason we do that is how we keep track of the Nautilus that we've caught and see if we get any recaptures. As well as that, we keep our passengers involved in the research, and you can see, for instance, number 1913 is actually sponsored by Tina and Arcadius. And you'll see that they're on a honeymoon, so they've got the little honeymoon Nautilus. What we'll do is, if we find it again, we'll send them back the details about their Nautilus so they'll know what's happened in the future. And I hope it has a very good honeymoon. Oh.
The honeymooners get roped into having more pictures taken. It all goes to show that marine research is not all serious business. There's plenty of time for a bit of fooling around too. Having done their bit for science, the nautiluses can float back down to their deep-sea home. Nautiluses have been around for 500 million years. Because of their rarity, beauty, and unusual fossil-like shape, unscrupulous collectors will pay top dollar for them, dead or alive. The teams working on the Undersea Explorer hope that their research will help create a secure future for these living fossils. Carl allows the passengers to hold the nautiluses, but he won't let them anywhere near this next creature, a Dubois sea snake. This is one of the most venomous snakes in the world. Its bite can be fatal. Luckily, they aren't aggressive and won't attack unless provoked. Although sea snakes are cold-blooded, they only occur in the warm tropical waters of the Indo-West Pacific, and of the 70 or so species, 14 are found in the Great Barrier Reef. They've undergone various adaptations to live underwater, but they're still air breathers and have to surface to catch a breath. But they can stay underwater for up to 2 hours at a time. Carl knows he's safe, even though this inquisitive snake seems to have taken an interest in him. Further along the reef, he comes across another rare sight, cuttlefish. Not one, but two. Another honeymoon couple. Cuttlefish belong to the same group of animals as octopus, squid, and nautilus. They have a well-developed nervous system, complex behavior, and the remarkable ability to control and change the color of their skin. These alien-looking creatures also have 3 hearts and green blood, and use their ability to change color to communicate with each other. The courting male gives his finest display, flashing split-second messages with rapid changes of color, blushing from dark mottles to fluorescent spots. Cuttlefish polish off the show with special courtship swimming postures and tentacle gestures. Carl knows he's privileged to see this. He leaves the cuttlefish to their courtship and prepares the Undersea Explorer crew for the final, most exciting experiment. It will involve catching a shark.
So tomorrow what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying to get a TDR, temperature depth recorder, from one of those sharks and see what it's been doing during the day and night, where it goes feeding, what depth it goes to, what the temperature of the water is. And that's part of the research which is coming together now to actually give us an overall picture of sharks in the wild.
First, they must entice the sharks close to the boat. Time for some more bait. This will drive the sharks crazy. Within minutes, several grey reef sharks circle below. Sleek and swift, the sharks dart at the bait. The bait is fastened with chains, not hooks, to prevent any unnecessary harm to the sharks. But this makes it much more difficult to catch them. They must try again. The trick is to lure a shark close to the boat, wait until it bites, then try to grab it and drag it onto the platform. But the sharks are lightning fast. Even when they do manage to land one, securing it is another matter. The sharks are extremely strong and could easily snap off a finger or even a hand. Many sharks have slipped away at this point, so they hold on tight. Otherwise, they'll have to repeat the whole tiresome process. Finally, they manage to get a rope around the shark's tail.
Have you got it?
Whatever.
The passengers watch from a safe distance as the shark is then allowed to slither off the deck, though it's still tethered. Once back in the water, the shark begins to relax a little, even though it has a rope around its tail. They wait for the shark to stop thrashing about, then hoist it back onto the ship and start collecting the important measurements they need. They know this shark well. They've nicknamed him Gorbachev.
You'll see why it's called Gorbachev when we pull it up. It's got a big birthmark on its head.
Every year, researchers implant 20 sharks with microchips and submitters. These chips contain all sorts of vital information, including how far the sharks roam and where they go at different times of the year.
Okay, we're measuring Gorbachev on the back deck. That's what... Oh, it's about to go.
With this data, researchers can make informed recommendations about how best to protect the sharks.
17! And trying to find out how fast they go. So we're measuring it. We've caught this one before 3 times.
Ross scans the microchip already under the shark's skin for data.
Okay. So she must have been tagged a long time ago. Number is 080036.
Last but not least, they take a tiny bit of fin for DNA sampling.
Sit back again. Okay. DNA.
No doubt Gorby doesn't enjoy being dragged out of the water, but it's all over very quickly, and the research data he provides will help protect not just Gorby, but the rest of the sharks, and ultimately, the Great Barrier Reef itself. The hard work finished, the team can celebrate another successful day. The crew of the Undersea Explorer is always looking for new, unknown dive sites, hoping to make the experience even better for their visitors. Adventure diving and scientific work. It's a winning combination, and ultimately, the Great Barrier Reef itself will benefit. It's the end of an amazing week. The passengers head back to shore with a stash of wonderful memories and commitment to conservation that only a hands-on experience like this could provide. With all the work now out of the way, guests and crew let their hair down one last time. They will all go home wonderfully refreshed, whether from the cool waters or dizzy heights, after new thrills or wildlife encounters, luxury flights, or rough, tough outback work. They've all been bitten by the Queensland bug. They've all had their own personal, ultimate journey.